Hi, in this video we are at step 5. This is comments and general report card info. My name is Debbie Bourne. I am the helping teacher for curriculum and digital learning in Abbotsford. Before we get started, I want to remind you that at the top menu bar here there is a drop down. You can get to the report card help page by going here. You can also click on the question mark and you can find access to the report card help page right here also. So we've already put in our competencies and we're ready to do our comments. Come to the report cards tab, click the drop down arrow, and let's go take a look at students. I'm going to go ahead and click on the first student in my roster here, and I'm in the actual report card. Along the top here you can see the student's name, the course that I am in, and the term that we are in. I'd like you to note that this page here is what parents will see the very first thing when they look at their report card, and your general comments are not determined by which course that you are in. So I could flip between any of these courses and the general comment stays. It is here for me to access at all times. So starting at the very top, you can see the competency performance key, which we can open or we can hide. The final mark key, which will be used only in term 3, but it is open for middle school for Explo teachers to complete their work. This section here lets you toggle between students. I can go to a previous student and I can go to the next student. At any time I can click the print button and I can take a look at what I've done so far. It's just a print preview, so feel free to use it. Right along the top here I have a ribbon of menu items that I can use, and the first one is the teacher. You only have to do this in term 1, so sometimes teachers forget and they're like, where did my teacher name go? It is your responsibility to put in the teacher name and any names of teachers who teach all students. Once you have them all in, you can go ahead and copy to all. Now, if you have a split class, you will have to do it for your grade 2 class and copy to all, and then you'll need to do it for one of your grade 3 classes and copy to all. Once you've finished with teacher, you can go ahead and shrink it. And just one quick note, you'll notice here that I have some uniformity in the way that it's done. You might want to check with your administrator. Do they want you to put in your whole first name? Do they want a salutation? How do they handle it at your school? When I'm finished with it, I can shrink it, and it has not disappeared. It's just hidden. I can open back up. I can shrink it back down. Next one I'm going to look at is the term comments. Again, if you don't see them, just click on the plus button and you will notice this open up. I've already gone in and put in some random text so that you'll be able to see some of your options of what you can do when you get to your term comments section. So as mentioned, these general comments and the ways to support learning are things that show up on the very first page of the student's report card. We like this to look fairly meaty and not very thin because this is the only thing that shows up on the first page. So you do have quite a lot of space between the general comments and the ways to support learning. You have a total of 45 lines. How you distribute those 45 lines is up to you. So for example, you could have 20 lines in the first section, and that would leave you 25 lines to put in your ways to support learning, or you can juggle it any way that you would like to. Please note that these lines of text are the lines of text that shows up within Check My Progress. If you're wanting to replicate this when you're doing your reporting comments out in Microsoft Word, you could switch to the font of Calibri and the size of 14, and it would pretty much match size for size what you're going to see here in the actual Check My Progress reporting program. If you do not use all of this space, don't worry, they'll just collapse and it won't look like you have a bunch of white space left over. You can use the print button at the very top here at any time to just take a look and see how that fits into your actual report card. The general comment at the top here is designed to be more general in nature, referring to the student's core competencies. That would be how they communicate, work in groups, how they participate in their schoolwork. You could also comment on course-specific information up here too, but there is another box that I'll show later that you can use for the course comment also. The Ways to Support Learning box is designed to give parents some ideas and families of how they can help support learning that's going on in the classroom. Both sections have a copy to all button. So if you have something that you would like to say to every single student, you could go ahead and put that in first and then select copy to all. Of course, we do not want to encourage identical comments for students. However, there might be an introductory paragraph that you'd like everyone to have reference to. And in this case, you can go ahead and put it in first and then copy to all. Just bear in mind that if there is something in another student's work or in their boxes and you push copy to all, it overwrites everything that is already there. So take care when you're using copy to all. It's best to use it at the very beginning. And as mentioned, you should be making either doing your comments directly into Check My Progress, or you can go ahead and do them in Microsoft Word. Please do not do them in Google, as Google is not FIPA compliant, and we're putting personal and private student information into here. So Word is a great place to do it so that you have a backup copy. Because Check My Progress is a website, when you are going to be copying from from Microsoft Word into Check My Progress, instead of just going Control V, if you go ahead and right click, you will have a paste as plain text option that you'll want to use so that you don't get any upside down question marks or strange characters. The goal in our comments is to make sure that we're leaving individualized comments for each student. One of the things we can offer, though, is the keyword substitution. So if you look at the very bottom of this page, you're going to see that you've got the adaptations list and the keywords. If you open that one up, you'll notice that you can use the words F name and L name to have the student's first or last name substituted automatically. So if you'll notice at the top here, I've put in F name has had a great start to her year. She has demonstrated tremendous leadership in our class, particularly during our unit on Middle Ages. So it will allow you to have the first name substitute in, and just to show you what happens then when you go to the print button, you'll see that it shows up here, Jody has had a great start to her year. So it pulled in Jody's name. So that's the way that that works. Make sure to address the student with the pronouns that they wish to be addressed with, and build those comment banks again out in Microsoft Word. The general comment needs to include a reference to ELL students. So if you have an ELL student in your class, there'll be a box at the top that says they have an AIP. If you do, by the way, have a student without an AIP and that box is checked off, you need to check in with your ELL teacher. They are the ones who make that update. And there is also a frequently asked question slide shot to help them out, and they find that when they go to the report card help page. But your comment as a classroom teacher is going to be, the classroom teacher and ELL teacher are working collaboratively to build FNAME's language acquisition skills. And when you put FNAME in, it will, of course, substitute the child's first name. So once I've pasted in my comments here, I'm going to do the same for ways to support learning. There might be a really good advantage, or a good way to take advantage of copy to all in ways to support learning, since there are often many similar strategies we'd like parents to practice at home. Once you have done this, you continue to work on your other students, and you can do that just by going to the next button and going ahead and putting the next student's comments in. I'm going to go ahead and minimize the term comments by clicking on the minus, and it looks like they've disappeared, but indeed they're only hidden. The next one up is competencies and core content. So if I course comments, so I'm going to open that section up, and you'll notice that this is also an area where I could be doing my assessment. So I could simply type the shortcut here, a 3, and it will come up with proficient, or I can put the 1 and it will come up as emerging. My course comment here has a maximum of 7 lines. If I have an ELL student, I'm going to need to make a comment in here about how scaffolds are being used to meet the goals that are outlined in the ELL students' AIP report. And in order to help you to do that, you can head over to the report card help page. And if you scroll down to the section that is called reporting on students with exceptionalities, you can go to the elementary or middle school document, and there are some very specific examples there of what you can write to meet the requirements for that section of the report card. Another thing to note is in the PHE course, the PE teacher and the classroom teacher are sharing that course. It is important that you refresh often so that you do not end up overwriting one another's comments. Please take care when you are in PHE, probably to not copy to all. I would also like to recommend that you leave this section to the priority use of the PE teacher so that they could be commenting on what they're doing in PE, and then they could copy to all. And then you could come in after that copy to all had been done. And if you have some comments you want to make about the health component of the course, you could do that here. And of course, you do have space in the general comment, and you could feel free to just put it in the general comment instead of here in the course comment. And that way you will not interfere with what the PE teacher is doing, and neither will they interfere with what you are doing. So again, I can scroll to the top and I could minimize this section and it goes away, but there's also a box for content. I'm just going to expand that, and it's going to show the area of content that I have selected for this language arts course. And again, there's nowhere to assess on content. We simply assess on the course competencies. Next thing down is the adaptations. I'm going to go ahead and expand that, and you'll notice that I have very many options here to choose from. These are again shared by all of the teachers who work with this particular student. So if you come in here and you notice that some have already been checked off, leave them, because another teacher might be using those adaptations for that student in the course that they are teaching that class to that student. So I'm going to minimize this section now, and all I have left is self-assessment. Note that this is something that has to be done during term 3. You do not report on self-assessment. It doesn't happen in terms 1 or 3, but I'd really like to strongly advise that you are doing things in the classroom to help the students practice those self-assessment techniques throughout the year, and that you are keeping copies of this work somehow, whether they are doing some self-reflection in their Seesaw account, their My Blueprint account, in a Google account, or even if you're just doing hard copies. All of those are useful, and then when June comes around, you can pass those back out to the students. They can take a look at their digital copies, and they can show how they've grown in an area of communication, critical thinking, creativity, or personal and social responsibility, making reference to something they did in September, something they did in January, and then now how they're being able to utilize that skill in June. All right, so I'm just going to scroll back up to the top here and open everything back up again so I can see what we have gone through. So we have added in the teacher name. We made a general comment on student progress, and we put in the ways to support learning. Remember that this is not course specific. This shows up no matter which course I am in, and this is what is on the first page of the report card. Our course competencies are in there, and self-assessment again only shows up on term 3. Please make sure to go ahead and print at any time to take a look and see what happens. And when I print, you're going to notice that some different messages will show up, and we're going to get that when we get to the next installment of this video series, which will be how to print your report cards.